1975, in a small village in Italy, a man named Tony spends his time painting. One day, his two close friends, Fabio and Vittorio, come to see him. The three of them have made a big decision. They are leaving for Rome to chase their dreams. Fabio wants to become a factory worker, Tony wants to live as an artist, and Vittorio hopes to become a priest. After finishing his painting, they set off together toward a new life. A few days after arriving in Rome, reality hits hard. With no money, Tony works as a street painter. Some days he gets customers, other days no one even stops. Sometimes he can afford to eat, but more often he goes hungry. Even so, Tony remains grateful and keeps going. Months pass, until one afternoon Tony meets a woman who truly loves art. She invites him to a party at the home of a famous artist. There, Tony sees a life of luxury he has never known, and for the first time, he feels envy. After the party, he wanders into the artist's room, hoping to talk, but the artist is asleep. Not long after, a woman named Donata arrives. She turns out to be an art dealer. Tony quickly tells her that he is a painter and that his work is even better than the artist she just saw. He gives her his apartment address and invites her to come by the next morning to see his paintings. Donata becomes curious. The next morning, Donata arrives while Tony is still asleep. She is shocked to find paintings that look like they belong to a famous artist. When Tony wakes up, he casually explains that they are fake, just copies he made from images in a book. Donata is amazed by how perfect they look. To test him, she asks him to recreate another painting and gives him her card, telling him to bring it to her once it is finished. This is where it all begins. Welcome to the big fake. A few days later, while Tony is painting, Fabio shows up again. This time, Fabio has completely changed his path. He has quit his job and joined an activist group that opposes the government, known as the Red Brigade. Fabio explains that the group needs weapons, and he invites Tony to join a robbery, targeting both guns and money. Tony hesitates at first, but his desperate situation pushes him to agree. That night, they carry out the robbery and manage to get a large amount of loot. However, things go wrong when Tony is spotted by a guard. Fabio steps in to help, but ends up getting shot. After taking down the guard, they escape and rush to Vittorio, who treats Fabio's wound at the church. Vittorio is not surprised by their actions, since both of them have always caused trouble. After helping Fabio, he lectures them, urging them to change their ways. Fabio simply laughs it off, and Tony even invites Vittorio to join him the next day to visit a woman. The following day, Tony and Vittorio drive to Donata's house. When they arrive, Donata is completely focused on examining Tony's work. Not wanting to interrupt, Vittorio quietly leaves. Donata then hands Tony 300,000 lira, promising more if the painting sells. Tony is overwhelmed with happiness. He has never earned that much money before. At that moment, he realizes something dangerous. Compared to honest work, illegal money comes much easier. To celebrate, Tony invites Donata to go to a club with him that night. While Donata steps away to grab a drink, Tony notices a man leading her downstairs to a private restaurant. Curious, he follows. Down there, he finds Donata sitting with a group of gangsters. She introduces him to their leader, Balbo, and reveals that she is not just an art dealer, but also a handler of stolen gold. As the conversation flows, Tony casually shows a fake check worth 3 million lira. He explains that his skills go beyond copying paintings, he can also forge signatures. This immediately catches Balbo's attention. The next day, Balbo visits Tony's apartment to see his work. Tony makes it clear that he is willing to do anything, even robbery. In return, he asks for a proper studio where he can paint. Balbo agrees without hesitation. Not long after, Tony visits Donata again and receives money from the sale of his forged painting. When he learns how much it sold for, he is stunned. If things continue like this, he realizes he could become incredibly rich. As months pass, Tony's life transforms completely. He now has his own studio, and from time to time, Balbo asks him to forge documents. The once poor village artist can now afford a house, and he eventually marries Donata. One night at a bar, Balbo introduces Tony to a hitman who needs help forging a passport. Tony brings him to the studio, and at first the man seems distant. But when he learns that Tony is a fan of Inter Milan, his attitude changes, and the two quickly form a connection. A few days later, while riding in a car with Balbo's crew, Tony hears shocking news on the radio. A government party leader named Aldo has been kidnapped by the Red Brigade. Tony is stunned. realizing that this is the same group Fabio joined. When he arrives at his studio, Tony meets a politician named Zupipo, who wants him to create a forged painting. He provides a reference image and asks for a perfect replica. The following day, the news is filled with reports about the massive search for Aldo. The Red Brigade releases demands, stating that Aldo will only be freed if their conditions are met. Tony grows increasingly worried about Fabio and the dangerous path he has taken. That night, Balbo takes Tony to meet a mysterious organization called the Tailor. Their leader asks Tony to recreate a leaflet identical to the one from the Red Brigade, but with a false message claiming that Aldo is already dead. Tony is terrified, but he has no choice but to obey. After completing the task, Tony and Donata encounter the leader of the Tailor again on their way home. Tony asks Donata to wait in the car while he speaks privately. The leader gives him another assignment. He knows Tony is connected to Fabio and asks him to deliver a message, claiming that the Vatican has prepared 10 billion lira to secure Aldo's release. Back at home, Donata questions Tony about the man they met. Tony avoids answering, trying to keep her out of danger. This only makes Donata angry, as she realizes how much he has been hiding from her. The next night, Tony meets Fabio at the church and passes along the message. Fabio says he needs to discuss it with his group. The following morning, they meet again in an abandoned building, where the group agrees to release Aldo in exchange for the ransom. Fabio even shows proof that Aldo is still alive. Later that day, Tony goes to a bridge to meet a representative from the Vatican, expecting to receive the ransom money. But everything suddenly falls apart when the deal is canceled. The money will not be delivered, and instead, Tony is pressured to reveal Aldo's location. Unbeknownst to him, the Tailor is watching from a distance. Realizing that something is very wrong, Tony quickly contacts Vittorio and urges him to warn Fabio that the negotiation has failed and that they need to escape immediately. A few days later, on May 9, 1978, the radio announces a shocking update. Aldo's body has been found in the center of Rome. Hearing this, Tony rushes to the scene, realizing how everything has spiraled out of control. The next afternoon, while talking with Balbo, Tony finally learns the truth about the Tailor. It is not just another organization, it is something far more dangerous. Balbo reveals that they once promised to free a friend of his from prison in exchange for help, but after getting what they wanted, they never kept their word. He tells Tony that he is actually lucky. If the ransom deal had gone through, Tony would likely have been eliminated and the money taken back. Whatever their real goal is, one thing is clear: they never intended to save Aldo. That night, when Tony returns home, he finds Donata packing her belongings. She has had enough. Too many secrets, too many lies. She feels like she is no longer treated as a wife, and Tony has completely abandoned the art that once defined him. Her decision is final. She is leaving. Tony can only stand there in silence. A few days later, tragedy strikes again. While driving at high speed, Balbo suddenly loses control when his brakes fail, leading to a fatal crash. At the funeral, Tony is certain that this was no accident. It was the Tailor. From a distance, he even spots their leader attending. Overcome with anger, Tony confronts him, but the leader remains calm. It is made clear that this is just a warning. If Tony wants to survive, he must obey and find Aldo's secret notes. Disgusted, Tony walks away. But that same night, while he is on the phone, someone breaks into his home and brutally crushes his hand. A clear message that he is not free. The next day in the hospital, Zupipo comes to visit. He already understands what has happened. He shares his own experience of being betrayed by someone more powerful in the government, and how he chose to stay silent to protect himself. He warns Tony not to act recklessly. In this world of dirty politics and crime, making illegal money is easy, but knowing your limits is the only way to survive. 5 months pass before Tony receives a call from Vittorio, informing him that Fabio is hiding at the church. Tony immediately goes there. After so long apart, the three friends are finally reunited. Fabio, now a fugitive, asks Tony to forge him a passport. Tony agrees, but only if Fabio hands over Aldo's secret notes. Fabio accepts the deal. Vittorio also offers to help, even suggesting Fabio take his old car, but Fabio refuses, joking that the car looks like scrap. That night, the three of them spend time together playing football, trying to relive their childhood, even if just for a moment. The next day, Tony visits Donata to apologize and ask for another chance. During their conversation, he accidentally touches her stomach and realizes that she is pregnant. The news fills him with happiness. Seeing his reaction, Donata begins to soften. Once the passport is ready, Tony meets Fabio again. As promised, Fabio hands over Aldo's secret notes. Knowing this might be their last meeting, the two friends embrace, encouraging each other one last time. But the next day, before Fabio can escape, the police surround his hideout. Fabio is killed. Later that day, Tony asks Vittorio to hide the secret notes safely. He entrusts him with one final responsibility. If anything happens to him, the notes must be given to Donata. Vittorio agrees. The following day, Tony meets Zupipo again with a new plan. He claims he has tracked down the location of the money that was stolen from Zupipo in the past. He offers to steal it back with his crew, on the condition that they split the profits. After that, he plans to leave Italy forever with Donata. Zupipo agrees to the deal. That night, Tony and his crew carry out the robbery with precision. Everything goes smoothly. After securing all the money, Tony stages the scene carefully. He photographs the tied-up guards in front of a Red Brigade banner, making it look like the group is responsible for the crime. The following night, Vittorio is busy working when the leader of the tailor suddenly shows up. Without wasting time, he reveals that he has evidence of Vittorio misusing church funds, the very money that allowed him to buy a new car. Vittorio is terrified. The leader makes it clear that if he wants to avoid being exposed, he must reveal where Tony has hidden Aldo's secret notes. The next morning, when Tony returns home, he finds the hitman already waiting for him. The situation quickly becomes clear. The tailor has ordered his execution, and Vittorio has already given away the location of the notes. Tony is left in shock. However, the hitman decides not to kill him. Because of their past connection and their shared love for Inter Milan, he chooses to spare Tony's life. But there is a condition. Tony must give him someone else, someone who looks like him, to take his place. That night, while Vittorio is at a restaurant, he receives a letter from Tony. In it, Tony expresses his disappointment and pain, unable to believe that his childhood friend could betray him. Yet despite everything, he chooses to forgive him, believing that Vittorio may have acted under pressure. He writes that he is leaving Italy for good, and as a final gift, he offers his car as a farewell. Overcome with regret, Vittorio breaks down. He goes to see the car, hoping to hold on to what remains of their friendship. But the moment he steps inside, the hitman is already there. With a single shot, Vittorio's life comes to an end. At the same time, Tony and Donata are seen riding in a taxi, heading toward a new beginning. Tony sits in silence, his face pale and filled with trauma. Donata tries to comfort him as they leave everything behind. This time, it truly feels like the end of their dark past and the beginning of something uncertain. So the moral of the story is chasing an easier life can slowly take everything from you, until one day you realize the money stayed, but the people you loved are all gone.